2023 was one of the craziest years in recent pro wrestling history. Edge joined AEW, Jade Cargill joined WWE, CM Punk was fired for AEW and returned to WWE. But 2024 might about to be even crazier. Whose contracts are expiring in 2024? Who will re-sign? And who will leave their promotions?
Support WrestleTalk!
So before we dive in, I wanted to give a massive credit to Fightful's contract tracker on their website, without which much of this research would have been significantly harder. But even with that handy-dandy tool, there may be some names on this list that are missed or that we don't even know about and haven't been reported on, but I've tried my best to get every name that we know about. Some of these dates are reports, and some of them are things the wrestlers have said themselves. So we're going to go through this in chronological order, starting with the start of 2024 and going through the year to see when contracts will be expiring, so we can get an idea of when we can expect these names to jump back in the news cycle as their contracts are running out. So, we begin with early 2024. Just kidding, we actually start with the end of 2023, and there's a big old free agent lurking around right now with their contract already having expired. That being Sasha Banks / Mercedes Moné. After leaving WWE and joining New Japan and Stardom, Moné was sidelined with an ankle injury in her New Japan Strong Women's title match against Willow Nightingale and hasn't been wrestling since. She did appear at All In the crowd, and there were reports that despite New Japan originally having plans for her return, those plans are no longer in effect. So will Banks make her return to WWE, join AEW, return to New Japan, or none of the above? There's also some major free agents right now in the form of those released from WWE in September, such as Mustafa Ali, Elias, Dolph Ziggler, Riddick Moss, and Matt Riddle, all of whom could find their feet in promotions in 2024. Mustafa Ali has already announced his 2024 World Tour, so it wouldn't be out of the question to end that tour with him signing somewhere. So what about those who aren't free agents right now? At the end of 2023, there are still a few names whose contracts are due to expire, one being a big WWE name, Alexa Bliss. Now, that date has the potential to change as Bliss has been off our screens due to her pregnancy, so there could be time added to her contract to see her further into 2024. Bliss is an interesting case though, as she has quite publicly been frustrated with her booking in WWE in the past. And while the instinct might be to say, well, that was under Vince McMahon's jurisdiction and it'll be different now that Triple H is in charge, Bliss was actually never that big in Triple H's NXT, as she was around the same time as a lot of the Four Horsewomen. Bliss actually flourished more when she was brought to the main roster, so what will her stance be on Triple H's WWE when it comes to renegotiation time? Another contract set to expire at the end of 2023 is Dirty Dango from TNA, who of course has history with WWE as Fandango. A Royal Rumble 2024 surprise spot, perhaps. Another TNA wrestler who's actually confirmed they'll be a free agent as of January 1st, that being Deonna Purrazzo. Purrazzo was infamously poached by WWE ahead of the first All In 2018. However, she was released from the company in April 2020 after only just 16 televised matches, with Purrazzo later stating in an interview that the creative team believed she wasn't ready for television. Purrazzo has also wrestled on Dynamite in the infamous main event with Mercedes Martinez. So, what could be next for her? There's one more contract due to expire at the end of 2023, and that's NWA's Camille. NWA has become something of a poisoned product in the last year, but despite their low points, Camille's NWA women's title reign was a constant highlight. There's a lot of hype surrounding her right now, rightfully so, and she stated she's rejected a contract renewal with NWA and will become a free agent on January 1st. And on the subject of January 1st, let's talk about AEW World Champion MJF. Now, look, it's been said for a long time that MJF's contract expires on January 1st. There's the whole story of the bidding war of 2024. But has he really not re-signed? House of Wrestling reported in December that there are those within WWE who believe MJF has re-signed a contract to take him through to 2027 in AEW. MJF has denied those reports, but he would, wouldn't he? He's got one title defense left in 2023 against Samoa Joe at World's End, where the status of his contract may become much clearer. Alex Hammerstone will also become a free agent on January 1st as he posted to Twitter, meaning he'll be leaving MLW. Another name that could draw some interest from AEW, WWE, TNA. He's a big lad. Look at him. Moving slightly later in the year, let's look at the end of January, and there's one name, one very, very big name to consider. Kazuchika Okada's New Japan contract is set to expire at the end of January, and it is absolutely insane that this is a name that's not only on this list, but has a very real chance of leaving his New Japan home. Despite being essentially the #1 guy in New Japan for several years now, there's a chance Okada could leave for either AEW or WWE. If it's AEW, it's another huge get from New Japan, joining Will Ospreay Barry and Jay White. But there is also reported interest from WWE too. And with the potential teases and rumors of Okada having famed wrestling agent Barry Bloom at his side for negotiations, it lends even further credence to him heading to North America. This one will change the complexion of the wrestling landscape in 2024. In a more vague time setting, in early 2024, Drew McIntyre's WWE contract is set to expire. This one has been spoken about a lot, with McIntyre reportedly being upset about his creative following WrestleMania 39 and not being seen for months before making his return and having a frankly fantastic slow heel turn. So will WWE pull out all the stops to re-sign the former WWE champion? There's also the fact that he's been featured on the Bash in Berlin poster, which is in August, beyond when Drew's contract would have expired, so perhaps he's already re-signed. And while we're talking about Drew, we should talk about his pal Sheamus, whose WWE contract is hinted to expire in the first to second quarter of 2024, though that time frame couldn't be confirmed. Sheamus has been even more vocal about his frustrations with WWE and its booking, and has been out with a shoulder injury for a while now, which means there could be time added to his contract because of it. But there could be a real chance of Sheamus not re-signing when the time comes. Heading into WrestleMania season now, April 2024, AEW's Tony Schiavone will become a free agent. Schiavone is a pretty integral part of AEW programming, and there hasn't been any reports of dissension or unrest between the two parties, so I think it'd be unlikely he leaves, or if he does, I doubt it would be to jump ship to WWE. There's also New Japan's Clark Connors, member of Bullet Club and Survival Series contestant. Connors seems likely to re-sign with New Japan, but does have history with AEW, competing at the first Forbidden Door, so there's a potential link there if that was a relationship either side wanted to explore. We move to midway through 2024, June specifically, and we have the power couple of Becky Lynch and Seth Rollins, with both of their contracts expiring around that time. Now, I know we'd like to think about what Becky and Seth leaving WWE would look like, but I think we put those thoughts to bed real quick, as both of them have been extremely vocal in talking up WWE, calling it their home, etc. So I would be stunned beyond belief if either of them were to leave. So let's just leave that one there. Moving now into the time frame of summer 2024, we have a few interesting names here. There's Ricochet, someone who seems to enjoy his time in WWE, but does occasionally voice small frustrations, whether it be his lack of promo time or not being able to flex his full abilities in ring. Ricochet would be a wild addition to any promotion that would have him. Meanwhile, in AEW, there's Andrade El Idolo, who at one point it seemed was actively trying to get out of his contract. His wife Charlotte Flair remains in WWE, and Triple H seemed to bloody love Andrade from his time in NXT as NXT champ, so it wouldn't shock me if we see La Sombra return to being Andrade Cien Almas once more. There's also Jinder Mahal. He's a former WWE champion. Moving on to September 2024, and it could be a very interesting month indeed, as we have two very interesting names for very different reasons. Dustin Rhodes' contract reportedly expires around that time, and while he seems to be having a good time in AEW, could he rejoin WWE to be alongside his brother Cody? Could Cody and Dustin have their WrestleMania match they've always wanted under the watchful eye of Triple H? And the other AEW name is none other than Bryan Danielson. Danielson has taken up more and more backstage responsibilities in 2023, having a creative hand in Collision, making up 1/3 of the disciplinary committee, and Danielson has spoken passionately about his love of professional wrestling, so it wouldn't surprise me to see him stick around in AEW while his in-ring career winds down. Having said that, imagine if Daniel Bryan returned to WWE and retired there instead. Pretty wild, right? And now we zoom ahead to the end of 2024, where there are a few caveats here. Each member of the New Day, Kofi Kingston, Xavier Woods, and Big E are all reportedly signed through to the end of 2024, as they signed a 5-year extension in 2019. But each of them will likely have injury time added to their contracts, which will most likely push the expiration into 2025. The same applies for Randy Orton, who also signed his extension in 2019, but will also have injury time added, which could see him stick around until at least 2026. I also think it's unlikely he'll ever leave. Meanwhile, potentially leaving TNA could be Rich Swann, who has history with WWE as their cruiserweight champion and has raised his stock during his TNA tenure as their world champion. And lastly, one more name to talk about at the end of 2024. That's Kevin Owens. And this appears to be a certain portion of wrestling fans' dying wish, to see Kevin Steen wrestle in AEW. Of course, there's a mountain of history there alongside the Young Bucks and other Ring of Honor alumni to draw upon, but I think people just really want to see Owens be that Kevin Steen again. But not to rain on anyone's parade here, I think it's unlikely that Owens leaves WWE. I think the end of 2024 will come around, maybe we're still talking about him on a video just like this one, but ultimately, I see Owens as a WWE guy for life. Who do you think will leave their promotions in 2024? Who will stay? Let me know in the comments. And why not check out Ollie and Luke's 3-count predictions of what every WWE wrestler will be getting up to in 2024 as well.